to Aligned and Local, the podcast where community takes center stage. I'm Christina, local realtor, and your host, here to bring you inspiring stories from the incredible business owners, community leaders, and change makers shaping our neighborhoods. Whether we're spotlighting local heroes, diving into the latest market trends, or exploring what makes this community such a special place to call home, this show is all about connection, collaboration, and connecting the heart of where we live. Today, I am very, very excited. We are sitting down with Jeff Burgess, a dedicated financial advisor with West Point Financial Group, who believes in the power of financial education to transform lives. With a background in tax preparation and financial planning, Jeff actually specializes in guiding individuals and families through major life transitions, whether it's buying a home, getting married, or planning for their future. Beyond finance, Jeff is a pillar in his community, which is exactly why I wanted to have him on here. He is the founder of Chip Away at Cancer, a golf outing benefit, the American Cancer Society, and an active member of the Plainfield-Shorewood Area Chamber of Commerce. He also leads Plainfield Masterminds, a networking group of business professionals making an impact. And as a girl dad, Jeff is all about family, whether it's cheering on his daughter Reese in volleyball and golf or spending quality time with his wife Katie and their little one Emma. When he's not helping clients build wealth, you'll find him on the golf course, running, cooking, or even brewing his own beer from scratch. Join us as we dive into wealth building strategies, financial clarity, and the mindset that fuels Jeff's success in business and life.
Yeah. Hey, Christina, thanks so much for having me. This is really fun.
I'm super excited about it. I love talking to people like you and being able to share you with the community. Obviously, I have used you myself for financial planning and really look forward to continuing to do that. How did you initially get into financial planning?
Yeah. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So I went to school for accounting and quickly found out that it was something I liked but didn't love. However, I felt the need that I had to kind of prove that in the real world. And so I got a job as a tax advisor. Ended up working actually as a tax advisor for 6 years. So I must not have hated it too much. But what I found over time was that people were asking me questions that they should have been asking their financial advisor, right? And over 6 years growing my business, working through referrals, I got to build some really great relationships with my clients, and continuously over and over, they were asking me, hey, Jeff, I have this question about my IRA, my 401k, my whatever. And I could never fully answer their question because of like compliance purposes. And so one day the light bulb just went off. And I thought, well, there's a real need here. There's people who should be having relationships with financial advisors. And clearly my 200 plus tax clients, not many of them did. And because I wanted to help my clients in a more like full circle, with taxes, it's kind of like once a year, you get everything done and then see you in 365 more days. And that just kind of killed me because I wanted to help more. And so I looked into financial services as a way to utilize a lot of those same skills, but be able to help my clients, bigger picture, fuller scale. And we're at almost 11 years in the business. So the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, it's more than just wanting to help more too, though. You're very much a relationship guy and you always have been. Like, I've called you with some really tough things over the time that I've known you, and I've always felt like you were a friend and never bad for anything that needed to be done or, whatever. You're just really good at making people feel super, super comfortable. And I love that you did change over to something where you get to have those more personal and common and frequent interactions with people because it really suits you.
Yeah, I think deep down inside, I also felt like I had more purpose. Not that again, nothing against the tax world. That wasn't enough to really fulfill me. And I'm not even talking about from an income or a financial standpoint, but just sometimes at the end of the day, we're so passionate about our careers and our work. You want to be fulfilled, right? You want to be able to, like, before you lay your head on the pillow at night, to think I did something really, impactful today. And I was just getting just too small of a dose of that, I guess is the way to put it. And I'm big on the warm and fuzzies, and you probably have hopefully experienced that. And so I just wasn't getting enough of those. And now my cup is so full and overflowing. So yeah, very grateful.
Well, and the interesting thing about it is that for somebody, tax advising does fill their cup that way. This is just a different kind of thing, and it lights you up so differently, but it's visible, not just in the way that it shows up for your clients, but in the way that you show up in your community and as your life as a whole. It's so fun watching kind of who you are and the things that come from only that level of fulfillment for sure. When did you start playing golf?
Probably like junior high.
Yeah.
I mean, we always like had golf clubs laying around the house if we wanted to like go out in the backyard and tear up my parents' grass. Um, but I remember we had intramural golf, which was really only a 1 day out of the year, like mini little golf outing where we played 9 holes, and you had to play with a parent. So my dad and I would go out, and he's not much of a golfer, but he owned golf clubs. Um, and that to me, I always look forward to. And then I got a job at a golf course in high school, and that was where I got hooked, and I haven't given it up ever since, really.
But I also love that you found a way to take something that you love so much and not only use it as a way to network to grow your business, but also to, more importantly, serve the community. Tell us some more about that.
Yeah. So I have been fundraising for the American Cancer Society for almost 13 years now. And I initially started off running marathons and half marathons to raise funds. And I don't run marathons anymore. I'll run a half marathon. But I was at this point, so COVID, right? You talk about a lot of bad things that could have come from going through COVID. I like to focus on some of the stuff I've learned and some of the good things that came from it. So I was at this point in COVID where I had ran a few marathons, I had raised some good money, but I was like, I can't run 26.2 miles anymore. It's just like physically I can, but like mentally it was draining. But I love the half marathon, 13.1 miles. That's my jam. I was like, I'm going to do this big thing. I'm going to run 13 half marathons in 13 months and raise money for cancer. And I had it all mapped out. There's a ton of logistics, and I got through, I think, the first 5. So I was doing one a month, and then COVID hit. So my March half marathon got canceled. The April one got canceled, and I was like, well, I ran like one virtually, where I just like did it in like the honor system. But it wasn't the same impact. And then I realized long term I wasn't going to be able to complete those 13 half marathons. And at the same time, this is when I was working downtown. I was very involved with the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, and I was the chairman for their emerging leaders group. And I met a guy named Joe Clifford. Actually spoke with Joe last night, and we rekindled. But he had learned what I was doing, raising money for cancer by running. And he says, hey, I'm a part of this associate board that supports the American Cancer Society. I think you might be interested. And I was like, that sounds right up my alley, because I'm kind of like, I took the races being canceled as like a sign from the universe of like, hey, Jeff, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. But I still wanted to, raise funds and awareness. Because cancer unfortunately hits way too close to home for me. And so joined the board. We couldn't do our big like fundraising gala. Everybody gets dressed up, and it's somewhere in the city typically. And we couldn't do that for 2 years. And that took a toll on our board's fundraising impact. And one day, it was in a Zoom board meeting. I was like, screw it. I'm gonna start a golf outing. Like, our board doesn't have a golf outing. I love golf. Like, I'm just gonna do it. And I just literally, it just like spewed out of my mouth, almost like unconsciously. The first year, we had 32 golfers. We raised like $2,000. And it was funny because it was perfect. Like, I'm talking perfect weather. Like 74 degrees, sunny, no clouds, no wind, just like, and then 2 hours in, Christina, torrential downpour. And we couldn't finish. Like, they had to close the course. There was like just puddles everywhere and standing water.
Oh,
but
no.
I know. So like, yes, that's a sad story. but it gave everybody time to like hang out longer, like in the clubhouse. And everyone's like, wow, this was really fun. Like, I hope we do it again. And it was just nothing but positive feedback. I'm actually getting the goosebumps, just kind of reliving that right now. And so I was like, okay, maybe we have something here. Year two, we had 80 golfers. We raised $17,000. I'm like, okay, I think we can have something here. Year three, 144 golfers, which if you don't know is basically that's the most amount of golfers you can put on one 18-hole golf course. Like you cannot put, yeah, you can't put 145. And we raised 42 grand. So like we're really like we're gaining some big traction here. And then last year was our fourth year. We had 144 golfers and we raised $71,000. And we're talking sponsorships from like big corporations, even small businesses. When people started hearing the story, this is like total grassroots. They wanted to get involved, right? And unfortunately, because the cause, right, cancer research and cancer patient support programs, unfortunately, that almost impacts like everybody, right? Whether it's an aunt, an uncle, a parent, a sibling, or whatever. And so people do want to open up their hearts and their pocketbooks to kind of help the cause a little bit. And one of the more unique things that I created from day one that I'm still super, super proud of is that every foursome requires one female golfer, at least one female golfer. And so this was part of an initiative to get more women on the golf course, because I would go to events and it would be like 99% men, if not 100%. Which, don't get me wrong, like I love golfing with my boys, like that's fun. But this is so much more than just golf. This is about raising awareness and getting everybody involved. So specifically making a requirement that a female has to be in every group. What it did is it brought people who have never golfed before to the game of golf. And we have people on our, like girls on our board, they play once a year and it's this event and they have such a great time. So we are in planning for year 5. We are looking for sponsors, if I'm allowed to plug that. Reach out to Christina, she'll get you in touch with me. And our goal is 125 grand, and I would say we are actually outpacing that goal, and it's February, early February right now. So it's just one of those like passion projects that it does become a love-hate a little bit, because I do run it. It becomes a little bit of a part-time job, but because I have the experience now and I know how fulfilling it is the day of, it's all worth it. The stories you hear about, people who say, thank you so much for doing this. My wife and I have never golfed before, but now we have a reason to come out every year and of course support a tremendous cause. The stories you hear. Last year we had a mission speaker who was also our presenting sponsor. He's like 28, 29 years old, and he's a cancer survivor himself. So not only did he owns a startup company, not only did he shell out like a good chunk of money to be our presenting sponsor, but he also like poured his heart out at our dinner program after the event, to just let everybody know that like a cancer diagnosis does not have to be seen as a death sentence, because there's been a ton of advances being made over time. And, obviously there's stuff going on in our world right now where maybe some of that funding from the government side might be cut. So now the dollars are even that much more fragile and mean that much more. So I could probably fill up 6 of your podcasts talking about this, but hopefully that answered your question a little bit.
Well, thank you for all that you do with that. And let's take it back to the other way that you make a really big difference. That is, I think, overlooked in everybody's household and conversations, and how significant it really, really is. Why do people need a financial planner?
People think that what I do is more like numbers based, right? I'm going to tell you how to invest your money, how to get a good rate of return, how to be tax efficient, etc. And while all that is absolutely 100% true, I'd like to think, and I've definitely gotten this feedback from clients, that what I really do is I help just give people confidence, right? Because we always have to make decisions with what to do with our money. Do we save it or do we spend it? If we spend it, how much should we spend? If we save it, where should we save it? And why should we put it in this vehicle versus that vehicle? So much of what I do is really about giving people confidence, which is really interesting when you think about the world we live in that's filled with just infinite technology. um, you can research, you can find articles that say do this, and then you can find just as many articles say don't do that same thing. And so kind of in this like world of just infinite information, I bring clarity. um, I help people just be confident, and oftentimes that leads to reduced stress, that leads to just a better just lifestyle, because they know that the decisions they're making every day are sound, right? We can't predict the future, and absolutely a part of what I do is projecting what the future is going to look like. But at the same time, we build flexibility with all of our clients. We hope for the best, but we prepare for the worst, right? Um, and what I do is, well, I intentionally call it ongoing financial planning, because just because I can put a plan together today that makes perfect sense, there's no guarantee that next year that same plan is still, a perfect fit for that client. So it's just continuously like tweaking when necessary, because there's so much out of our control, right? There's all these things we can do to plan and save and etc. But there's things like taxes that, other than voting, we don't have any control over what tax bracket we're going to be in. We don't have any control over what legislation is passed down from Congress. We don't have any control over what the stock market's going to do tomorrow. And so I think the people that work with me realize this. And it's not that they're waving the white flag, but they just know that these decisions in the hand of a professional are going to be executed, more efficiently than if they did it on their own. And just one other really quick, interesting note that I've shared with a lot of people years ago. I saw this woman speak, and I should really find her name because I need to start giving her credit for this. It was a continuing education event at a restaurant. In full transparency, I just went for the free dinner and for the CE hours that I needed. But these are all like informative sessions. And so this woman was speaking to a room of financial advisors, and she was a gerontologist. And if you don't know what a gerontologist is, it's basically somebody who studies the aging of humans. And she knew her audience. She had recently written this book and done all this research. And if you had to conclude that presentation, or summarize that presentation, she basically showed that people who do financial planning live longer. Like, she had very sound research and evidence to prove that. And the reason that people who do planning live longer is because they know they can afford to, which is really crazy to hear if you've never heard that before. But it's the same with billionaires, right? Billionaires tend to live longer. And most people think, oh, well, that's just because they have super fancy doctors and all this. And look, there is some truth to that. I'm not naive to that. But it's also because they know that when they're 95, that they're not going to be broke.
Well, it's a stress thing. We just talked about how stress is one of the main causes of cancer, like scientifically proven. Same thing. My dad just retired, which I'm super proud of, because maybe in our area that's more common, but in a lot of the world, not a lot of people get to do that anymore. But I remember when he was retiring, I felt like I was supposed to be celebrating this with him, and I'm excited for him and I'm proud of him. And I am, and I did, but also really freaked out because there's so many statistics that prove that when people retire, they die. Like most of their, I don't know, the numbers are, and I'm not going to try to recall them, but look it up if you want to yourself. There are legitimately statistics that show that, and it's the same concept. It's a lack of purpose, a lack of forward thinking, concern for security. All of those things cause a decreased lifespan when you stop working. And so it makes perfect sense that having a financial plan in place would have that same impact.
Yeah, there's probably two different types of people that retire. It's the one school of people who work their butts off and just know that like they can't continue to do this anymore, and that they probably have enough money to at least like live somewhat comfortably, and so they retire. Like those are the ones who are truly like counting down the days to retire.
Right.
The other side of it is people who are making like a very healthy decision of, I'm going to retire at X date because I can't wait to do all the things that I've been wanting to do, but I've been too busy working. Um, and obviously, I think there can be a big difference between those two scenarios. And so my plan with all of my clients is that you'll never have to decide one or the other. I always ask my clients, when do you want to retire? And would you ever push that back or pull it forward? And I just want my clients to be able to have the choice, whatever age that is, 60, 62, 65. I want them to truly have that choice of, I like being active. I like stimulating my brain and working. So even though I know I can retire, I'm going to continue to work. Or, hey, I really like work, but like I'm so much more looking forward to retiring and spending all that money I've been saving for 4 decades. And so I really want to just empower my clients so that they do ultimately have that choice, and they're not forced to retire because they physically can't work anymore, or to work longer just because they haven't saved effectively.
Yeah, I love that. When do people need a financial advisor?
Yesterday. Right? Yeah. So I'll tell you this though, and I mean I have 250, 300 clients somewhere in there. Been doing this, over 10 years. I would say probably one of the most common things I've heard from clients when I do ask for feedback, after we've done like some of the initial planning, is, gosh, I wish we would have done this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago. The older you are, the bigger that number gets, right? So the 50-year-olds say, we should have done this 20 years ago. The 40-year-olds say 10 years ago, right? So there's a concept in the financial world, and I won't go into it, but it's called time value of money. And it is a lot like how it sounds, because basically, compound interest, saving, etc., boils down to how much time do you have to save and to let your money grow and work hard for you. So, it's never too soon. And it's also never too late, because I do see people on the other side of the camp where, maybe they're like late 50s, and they're like, well, gosh, I've never really like actively,
Literally just
right? So they'll say like, well, we're like 5-7 years out of retirement, and I think it's just too late to start, right? And the answer is no, right? Like you can still do something, and maybe some of this goes back to the cancer mentality of like, if you do nothing, nothing happens, or if you want to like lose weight, start exercising today. Don't wait until tomorrow, right? Don't let the diet start on New Year's Day. Let the diet start December 18th. Like that's better, right? So, obviously the more time you have, the more, opportunity you probably have. As soon as somebody is ready to truly start putting at least what they feel is a significant amount of money put away every month on a consistent basis, that's probably your first signal to maybe start working with a professional.
What about for those people who feel like the reason they're saving isn't necessarily because they can and choose not to, but they feel necessarily like they live up to their full capacity. They don't have the extra cash and they don't really know where to take it from to then be able to create that plan for themselves.
All the planning that we do is cash flow driven. So I don't care if you make 50 grand or 500 grand a year. If you don't understand your cash flow to start, then that's where we're going to start. Because typically, as we all make more money, we typically spend more money. Okay, now some of that spending is necessary. And just as a side note, I am not the financial advisor that's going to tell you save every penny and don't have any fun, because you still have to enjoy life. And I do it the same myself. So I don't want to be hypocritical and tell my clients, don't go out to dinner, don't go on the vacation because you need to save for your future. Sometimes you got to find that middle ground. Um, so yeah, so I mean, to those people who maybe think they're living check to check, it might it might be true. And so sometimes providing clarity and showing them, if you never change anything, here's what 20 years looks. Do you like that? And if the answer is no, then guess what? We can start making a change today, even if it's something small, right? Creating these habits doesn't happen overnight. It happens over years and sometimes decades. So, I think a lot of that also goes back to that it's never too late to start. And oftentimes when I talk to people who make like a good, healthy, like 6 figure, but they're not millionaires, oftentimes when they go through like their budget and their cash flow to start, one of the other things I hear a lot is, this was a real eye opener. And we didn't realize we were spending X amount on this.
Yeah.
Sometimes they realize that and they keep spending it on whatever that thing is. Other times they see the bigger picture by that point and they realize, you know what? Maybe we don't need to go out to dinner 3 times a month. Or maybe, whatever it might be, right? There's thousands of scenarios. And so now they are empowered, right, to make these decisions on their own. And all I've done is I've given them a clear picture of, if you don't change anything, here's what it looks like.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for all that you do to help people live secure lives, and even more importantly, everything you do to support the community in that process too. You are a great human, and I love that about you.
Thank you so much. This is really a treat to, to be asked to be on this. And I really just, I want to commend what you're doing, because it's maybe thankless or it's very selfless, because you're spending time out of your day to highlight other people around you and lift them up. And I want to commend you and give you kudos on that, because it shows a lot about your character and your heart.
Thank you for tuning in to Aligned and Local. I hope you're feeling inspired and connected to the amazing people and businesses that make our community thrive. If you've enjoyed this episode today, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps us share these incredible stories with even more people. And remember, whether you're looking to buy, sell, or refinance, I'm here to help you navigate your real estate and mortgage needs with ease. Let's align your goals with the perfect plan for your future.